and gentlemen, we are live. So welcome to Metafile Minutes. Today, on our inaugural first episode, we have the Godfathers of Metafile. The Godfathers of Rock, really the Godfathers of all things that are now relevant. They were the innovators. They're the ones that are bringing innovation to accounts payable, automation, to everyday business. So please join me in welcoming in Metafile Minutes, Jim Larson and Sean Dever.
Woohoo! Yay!
Hey guys, I've only been here, almost as long as both you guys combined. But why don't we just start off by, why don't you give us a little bit of a history, walk us through how this all started. Sean, you want to go first?
How it started for us? How it started for
Yeah. How it started for you guys. How long have you been with the company? And we'll just kind of go through a quick bio and then we'll jump into the meat and potatoes as well.
Sure. So about 32 years ago, in 1992, I started at Metafile. Just to put that in context, that's the days Windows 3.1 was just released. My day-to-day operating system was DOS. I think it was 4.0 or 5.0 at that time. There weren't any networks. The PC on my desk didn't have a hard drive. It had 2 floppy drives. The internet as a whole didn't exist. The World Wide Web didn't go public until the end of 1992. So you can see things have changed since then. But I started at Metafile. I was in the nonprofit side. I worked for a software product called Results Plus. At that time, it was privately held. We were very lean, small company. I got to do everything from product support, documentation, development. I even did training across the United States for our customers. And it was a fun time. It was a lot of interesting stuff going on. And then later, closer to 2000, I switched over to the imaging side and started working on web applications and web services. So yeah, 30 years.
Wow, 30 years.
Yeah. Same here, really. I started just about a month after Sean did, I think. Interestingly, I had been working at Great Plains Software before I came to Metafile. And as everybody's well aware, Great Plains is a pretty important accounting package for us right now. It really helped anchor our accounts payable automation. It was kind of the stalwart of all of the accounting packages. But at that time, accounting software had nothing to do with nothing. My work experience there really didn't mean anything to what Metafile was doing. But sometimes things come around. At the time, Metafile was really transitioning from some DOS products, and they wanted to do something with Windows. So I was fortunate that my first job out of college in 1991 was doing something with Windows. Windows was in its infancy and there wasn't a lot of commitment to Windows applications yet. But that's what I was working on at Great Plains was a Windows accounting package, and it was actually going to be sold and marketed by Microsoft. They were going to call it Microsoft Profit if you get the
Okay.
You get the joke there. But that was kind of the key to getting in the door here at Metafile, is they wanted to start working on a Windows product offering and kind of hedge their bets against what was going to come next after DOS.
And was that offering, was it always planned to be enterprise focused, like, the way that we're selling it now? Or was there ever a time where you thought maybe we'd put it in a box and sell it on a shelf?
I think there was that expectation at the time. The product was really going to be a very simple scan, index, and retrieve application. And it sounds incredibly basic by today's standards, but back then a scanner was a real expensive piece of equipment. You didn't have USB ports. You had to have custom hardware cards in order to connect them up, because there was no standard connectivity that could handle that amount of data. And even I remember simple things like like TIFF images, we kind of take the speed of everything for granted now, but on normal video hardware, you could watch it display an image. It started at
Right.
the top and worked its way to the bottom and took a couple of seconds to do it. So um, we were really looking to be out of the box, but
I
things
mean,
got involved pretty quickly.
we probably were out of the box for like, a quick minute, but I
Yeah.
think one of the best value I think that you can offer within the automation space, especially in accounts payable, is having the capabilities to do more than just, one or two facets of the overall process. And the one thing that MetaViewer definitely brings to the market is the ability to do everything. When we show up at a knife fight, we bring an 18-wheeler with us, and then, for good or for bad, that customers are learning how to incorporate all the functionality that we do have within our software. So I think, you guys being around for so long, there's a reason I call you the Godfathers, that you've really been able to see this from its infancy, literally, to where it is today. Like when you first started this coding, either of you ever foresee it? And I know, Sean, you were Results Plus, so maybe you came over here a little bit later, but did you ever think that we'd be where we are today, 45 years later?
No, I did not foresee where we would be. The first product I used at Metafile was actually where we got our namesake from, which was Metafile. It was a DOS product. It was a platform where we sold to customers to build solutions themselves. That's where Results Plus came from, Dental Plus, Campaign Plus. That was the point where we decided, the decision was made on whether we should be in it on the shelves at Best Buy and stuff like that, or we should be selling it directly to the customer. And we went to the route of doing customers. But you got to think back then, Jim talked about the displaying of the TIFF images. You couldn't go and buy a graphics card and a graphics
Right.
monitor at that time. That was special hardware that sometimes people were creating from scratch.
Yeah,
Even the internet didn't exist as it's known now, so it's hard to predict some of those changes. The
for
cool
sure.
thing was to watch it evolve and see the product solving problems in interesting ways for customers. That was really cool.
And so, do you think the product it evolved based on its ability to help find a solution for customers? So a new customer would come, and then we would just keep finding solutions. It wasn't here's a product, and then have the customer build their process or solution around the software. We built our software around the customer.
So if you take the evolution, so Metafile, the product was just a database with a word processor and a programming language. Then we had MetaView. MetaView was Metafile with the support to display images. And the cool thing that was used there is we had like an airline that scanned all of their manuals for repairing their airplanes and indexed it so that instead of taking big paper volumes out into a maintenance shop and getting them all gummed up with oil and whatnot, now you just typed on a computer for a part and it would pull up the how to repair it or the parts list and very easily look at that information and update it in real time, that type of stuff. That moved to MetaViewer, which is our Windows-based, first Windows-based offering. That was designed because we had customers that were generating literally thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of pages of reports. And they used to generate these green bar reports and stick them onto a truck and ship them off to their satellite offices every day. Just imagine the cost of paper and time and travel. Where we came in and we would capture these green bar reports electronically, burn them to a CD, drop it into the mail or FedEx it, a lot cheaper. And the guy at the other end, instead of carrying a box of paper around, would just drop the CD into the computer and be able to search his reports as easy as looking up Google. And then that moved on to handling the active documents, the invoices, the shipping reports, those type of things that needed workflow. So we looked for those opportunities to make people's lives easier and based on the feedback of the customer, improve the product over time.
I mean, I love that answer. I mean, we literally focus on the idea that with MetaViewer, we're simplifying the everyday. So, to know that even like organically, that was always one of the main traits of the fabric of what you were building, was to try to simplify and make things easier. I mean, that just makes the everyday better. So, again, that's why you guys are called the Godfathers. But it also brings me up to the next question, and I think it's a great little segue, is that, what trends have you seen over the years? And we know that Metafile's been around 45 years. We're the same age as the Happy Meal. I mean, I can't think of two better things to start with them, right? The McDonald's Happy Meals and Metafile. But in that 45 years and 30 years each, what trends have you seen? And then tell me, like, have you been in front of all the trends? Have you been behind some of the trends? I know, like, we've kind of been on both sides of that wave. So, walk me through some examples, or what first comes to mind when I say that.
Well, there's a lot of them. I mean, one that jumps to mind is I kind of think of it as the digital transformation. There was a point where computers were just starting to become prolific in business, and so paper was used for most things, and as you can well imagine, things just gravitated towards more digital forms of data and documentation, from your invoices and so on. And scanning was a novel way of bridging the gap, eliminating the paper and having a digital form of it. But all of that is just that's just went so far, right? We still have people who do a lot of scanning, but data and documents, they arrive digitally, they arrive by email, they come as PDFs, they come as some other digital file, and
Right.
just take all that for granted. But that wasn't true way back when. Another one that that comes to mind is just all of the process automation and the sophistication of it. MetaViewer is really rooted in automation of the capture process of scanned documents. That's really where it started to show its teeth and started to work through the problems of automating things, with image cleanup and scanning batches of pages and splitting them out into individual documents based on perhaps a barcode separator sheet. Later on, applying OCR to images. So there was a lot of these processes that were part of the capture process, and that's really where we really started adding more and more process out of capability.
Did you expect it to be so? Like, did you expect that difficulty, or like when you went into this, were you sometimes caught flat-footed because of the amount of extra work or like sideways results that would come, and then you have to think about how do you turn an outlier into a new result that's better for the customer and better for the process? Or were you guys pretty prepared as you kept going down this road, or this adventure, if you will, to where we are today?
I think in those days, software was a little different. There was a lot of toolkit vendors and a lot of third-party vendors offering things that were really just small pieces of a software stack. So that's one way in which we were able to at least stay current and stay up with the trends. Was
Right.
you didn't have to have the resources or the ingrown talent to go and solve all of these complex problems, because there was a vibrant ecosystem of companies making business just creating OCR toolkits, for example. And today that's changed a lot. We do a lot more with services and things like that. These things are all available to us, but it was very different then. It could be your entire business,
Right.
to create toolkits for communicating with scanners.
Yeah, it's funny if you stop and think about that. You think scanners, and you think even just the biggest machines, but scanners of all sizes, of all generations. At some point, we needed to figure out how to get that into the computer. And so, to think that unknowingly, we were not only saving the business process and time. We've been dealing in the currency of time for a long time. We're also saving the planet. You guys are like Godfathers and Captain Planet now. And you're gonna have so many nicknames by the end of this first episode. We have to come back next time just to go over the nicknames. I mean, and so Sean, walk me through from your side of the house, looking at Metafile as a whole, coming from the Results Plus and all the different iterations that we had, or offshoots, if you will, into certain business sectors, and then coming over to MetaViewer. Do you think that gave you some benefit in like seeing how a back-end process is different from A to B to C, and then why you've been so kind of successful on your position within MetaViewer and doing the back-end process for us?
Sure. I actually have some insight. My sister is an accountant, and I used to talk to her and like, how do you handle invoices? Email, for example. And she would say, well, I print them out. And I'm like, really? You print them out to paper? Why? And she's like, because I like to have everything consistent. Her norm is if get everything to paper, then she can deal with it. And so there was kind of an interesting example of her going to the next step of saying, well, why don't we just convert everything to PDF? So then everything is electronic and it's much easier to move around and there's less waste and you're the greener solution. So yeah, she was an example of how you can take a manual process and just do one level of automation on there. Get yourself to an electronic format. The next level of automation, make sure it's in a repository where someone can't delete it or modify it or tweak it.
Right.
What about routing it to another person so they can look at it? Simple things. And eventually we get to the point where we're taking AI and someone doesn't even have to look at their mailbox or look at a directory. We have the back end that will just go out and suck that stuff up for you. We use OCR tools to extract the information, intelligently recognize what labels there are and what values, populate the metadata for them automatically. No one's even has to look at the document at that point. We can take the drudgery out from manually having to touch these documents unless it's absolutely necessary. So yeah, there's been a ton of evolution there. And continuing to be with AI and tools and stuff coming online.
I mean, AI is gonna change the world, and I think for a long time we all thought like Terminator or iRobot, but AI, although anything has a possibility of going one direction or another, I think AI is gonna make the world more knowledge more accessible. It's like we're gonna be able to spit out facts, but I think it might actually make the human race a little dumber because you just throw it into the ecosystem and you're not actually having to do the work and read about it and then learn, figure out different processes. However, I wish we had it in university because I probably would have been able to get out of there quicker than 11 years. So yeah, it might have been a friend of mine. Jim likes that one. So any trends that came into the market that we didn't jump on, or like was there, walk me through like a decision where like, no, we don't want to do that. And in hindsight, I mean, not that it was a bad decision, but maybe you would have done it differently. Because I mean, hindsight's always 20/20, right? Like, was there any of those over the journey of the past 30 years?
Well, I think it'd be fair to say we floundered around with what the internet meant quite a bit.
Right.
It was a little bit like AI is now. People know it's going to be significant, but it's really hard to pin down exactly how it's going to be significant, what things are really going to turn out to work well.
Right.
And we knew the internet was going to be significant, and we were, we didn't miss the mark by a long mile, but we certainly floundered around a little bit trying to figure out what does that mean for the business and our software. How do we embrace this?
I mean, I think a lot of companies floundered around though. Like the internet that's a wild revolution, right? Like in our time.
Yeah,
it was.
There was also a lot of customer perception too. It's like I am not going to stick our valuable business documents out in somebody else's hardware. I don't want that stuff going across the internet. That's public. So there's kind of this acceptance over the industry as a whole, saying, yeah, it's okay. Software as a service is a mainstream thing now. We can trust it. So that stuff changed. There was a time when it was difficult to get a customer to move to the hosted environment, and now we have more customers hosted than on-prem.
Right. Now, interesting. I was we have to dive a bit deeper on that. We say the internet and we think, what was released in 92, maybe fully kind of brought in by the mainstream, more so like 96. That's how I remember it, but that's probably where I was in my age and my schooling. I feel like if you separate the word internet and the word cloud, I mean, how many of us spent years talking about cloud and then having the person you're talking to like look up to the sky? I mean, the cloud piece really took a lot of, and it's still taking people, like, they're still afraid to do that buy-in. And I wonder, think like we would be able to speed up that cycle from the automotive, revolution to then the internet, like digital with the internet and the computers, and then going cloud and everything being cloud centric because you don't have data, those massive data farms in and having to cover that cost. What do you think happens in terms of automation? Like, automation seems to be something that we're slowly, just because it's an improvement of process, but automation has kind of been able to skirt that fear that we've created in some of the other areas in the business. And why do you think that is? And if you think differently, why do you think? Tell me that, because I'd love to know.
I think the value proposition is so high, when you can take something that's mundane or something that is error prone and make it function in a more automated way, in a more accurate way.
Right.
You get a pretty good return on that, and I think you see that with just the explosion of all of the robotic process automation conversation in recent years. There's a lot of good products in that space, and we're a little bit niche in that regard. I always think of us as the document process automation people. That's more along the lines of what we do than just general process automation. But I think across the industry, when you look at companies like UiPath and other ones like that, they've seen explosive growth because
For sure.
Because of the value.
But document management is our backbone. Like, as much as MetaViewer is now known as an AP solution, at the end of the day, it's the backbone of our product is a document management professional enterprise product that we're now building offshoots on to be able to offer the customer base whatever it is they need to improve their processes. Is that a fair way to say it?
Yes, that's an absolutely fair way to say it.
Because that's my way of segueing you guys into. Explain to me what you would say MetaViewer is in 10 words or less.
In 10 words or less. Yeah, that's it is a process automation tool. I always think of it a tool. Maybe that's not fair. That's not what our customers see. That's not really how we sell it. They see it more as a solution. But to me, it's a tool. It's a platform upon which we can take documents and capture them and build out an automated process around those documents that gives you a lot of efficiency and accuracy, and in almost all cases, a lot of cost savings.
It's how you break that down. And then, Sean, we're going to come to you. But if you look at a chainsaw, when you're building a house, a chainsaw is a tool. When you're chopping trees in your backyard, a chainsaw is the solution. So it is just kind of dependent on what the final outcome is. And knowing that we can offer both the full kit or offer just the exact need that they have in the moment, I think that really has set us apart. And that's why we have that longevity of 45 years. But now, Sean, how do you describe it in 10 words or less?
I'd have a technical answer ready. Like, MetaViewer is a document processing and business process automation software, but that does not touch what we do. Honestly, the way I'd probably explain it as a marketing spin is we do the boring stuff for a company 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We check your email box for invoices, we grab them, we pull them in, we convert them, we clean them up, we extract the information, all before you wake up in the morning when your employees come in. Right. Instead of being outsourced, to automation and being replaced, what we're doing is we're optimizing that employee so they have the document in front of them so they can make a business decision that then makes, a business process work faster.
Right.
And it's consistent because rules are being enforced. and nothing's being lost in the shuffle. Yeah. We
Yeah,
take
no,
the drudgery work out of the process. We do it for them.
I agree with that, Sean. You know, the word robotic here, you know, I think it's true across the board. We value things that do the work that we don't want to do. You know, we want a robot to mow the lawn, you know,
right?
and that's a large part of what MetaViewer does, is it does the things that nobody really wants to do, but they have to get done.
Right. And it does it efficiently with less error, and it creates more time for employees. We don't take away jobs. We allow employees to focus on other areas of improvement, right?
Yep.
Yes, absolutely.
And so in parting, you know, one final question, because we have run over time, but we do deal in the currency at times, so I'll figure out how to give you some more back. You know what? Let's go with it. What are you most proud of? When someone asks you about, you know, your career, someone asks you about the 30 years that you put into this company, into a product that I get to talk about for the rest of my life and every day since I've joined this company. What are you two most proud of when you think about being the godfathers, the grandfathers, mentors for a lot of us? So, yeah.
Yeah, Jim and I talked about this real briefly. Metafile has been around since 1979. We've both been here for 30 years of that at the end, right?
Yeah.
What I think is amazing is that's a long run for a company. We've been successful. We have
Yeah.
customers that have been around for a long time. And not only that, every day I would come into work and I would see the faces of these people who've been there almost as long as I have. And I've seen their kids grow up, and we were not just employees, it was kind of a family.
Right.
I am proud of those people who did this every day alongside of us. Yeah, it's been an incredible run here. And I'm looking forward to the future.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with all of that. It's quite something. I certainly didn't expect that I would be here as long as I have. It defies the odds that Metafile would have even been here as long as it has. When you think of all of the changes over that period of time, companies that came and went, and if they didn't go somewhere, they got acquired and swept up into some sort
Right.
of larger organization, like happened to Great Plains with Microsoft, right? Things just disappeared, and it was quite something that we've been able to see this through, and I think our best days are ahead.
I see, and that's what I was gonna say. Like, we've always kind of been, you know, maybe only half a step or a step ahead, but you know, with Great Plains, we were already fully prepared for the rest of the Dynamics platform. With OmniConnect, we were already prepared to like get so far down the field to be able to bring in other ERPs and just, you know, ameliorate our integrations. But I want to circle back to something that you both kind of, you know, harped on, and it's, I say this to my daughter every day when I drop her off at daycare, is, you know, family is your foundation, but friends are your future. So be nice to everyone. And I think that's what Metafile is able to grow on. It's a company where we've all become, you know, starting as friends, but like, we're now family. Like, we're allowed to get mad at each other, and the next day, you know, it's okay. You talk through it like family does. It's not fake, and we all want each other to be successful, because then we're successful as a whole. And I think that is one of the best parts about working at Metafile that I found in my 8 months here, is that it's family based, and you know, like, treat everyone nice, and you're going to get a lot of help, guys. This was an idea that we think we want to bring to the market. We want just to be able to talk about automation, AP automation, AR automation, document management in general. But we couldn't do that without having an inaugural podcast and being able to really just emphasize where we come from and why we love and are so passionate about what we do day in and day out. And it's because of you two on this phone. I mean, the time that I've got to spend with you guys, I got to spend a few days in Minnesota. Like, you two are legends, and you have defied the odds, but you're not allowed to go anywhere for at least the next 30 years. So just, you know, I'd stop planning that, and I look forward to the next 30 with both of you. Because at the end of the day, don't forget, guys, we deal with the currency of time. Thank you very much for joining. I really appreciate everyone taking the time to sign in to Metafile Minutes. Stay tuned for next month when we come back with some more excitement. Until then, go sell something.